everyone, this is JB the Mentor. In today's episode, we'll focus on what's increasingly becoming a national crisis: bullying. As parents, guardians, administrators, and loved ones, we let this one get in front of us. So the question becomes, how do we stop young people from emotionally, socially, physically preying on one another and ultimately taking the lives of other young people? This movement, this behavior is deeply troubling to me. To think that millions and millions of young people all around this country are searching for answers, looking for clues, and we as a society have failed them. I want this to be a nation and a country where we change the narrative for young people, not just through words, but through actions that shows that we actually give a damn and we're willing to make a commitment and help create change that will bring some kind of stability and peace back to these young people. So with that being said, I'm charging everyone to do different, to think different, to act different, to make a commitment to helping each and every young person in this country become healthy emotionally, mentally, and socially. So the sole purpose of this episode is to provide schools all across this country with strategies and methods that will make a difference in their schools, so that we can go back to having schools be a safe place, a safe environment where they come to learn and to be loved. So if you're an administrator, school personnel, teacher, anybody that's a stakeholder in a school, the places of concern for you should be stairwells, bathrooms, cafeterias, playgrounds, areas that we know that there's no supervision, areas that we know that there aren't cameras to observe activities, places where students can easily be distracted and set up, physically abused, and conned into being gang members and other things that they choose not to be a part of, but they forced into it because we don't have the proper supervision to make sure that they are safe at all times. Some of the things that adults can do to help prevent bullying is act fast, is to act right away when you find out that bullying is taking place. Do a good job of listening, because sometimes young people or teenagers, they don't necessarily tell you right away what's going on. But if you listen to some of the language, some of the things that they were expressing, you get an idea of what's going on in their lives. Model relationships that are nurturing, that are friendly, that are kind. And that when children begin to see a pattern of how someone should treat them, then they begin to then seek relationships that feels well, that feels good. Also, make sure that you tell young people to tell right away. Something is out of place, something is uncomfortable, that they are to tell someone that is trustworthy, someone that they trust. And if it's even in a moment that they don't necessarily know this person, that they can always go to a person that's in authority and say, listen, right now this is what's going on with me, this is what they're doing, this is what he's doing, this is what she's doing, and I need it to stop. Can you help me? And the last piece is to make sure that when you address young people, that you always address the behaviors, not the labels. And what do I mean by that? So if you call a child a bully, then he will live out that energy. If you address behaviors, then he or she has no choice but to deal with the behaviors that are pointed out and self-correct those things through help from you and other staff members and other people that notice that this behavior has definitely went out of bounds. So here are some of the things that you can do to make a bully-free school. So any school that is committed to making sure that all the stakeholders are present, engaged, connected, and very much aware must always include parents. And the reason why that we have parents at the table, in the conversations, and in the mix is because too often what happens is a child will come home, or a student will come home and say, listen, this is what's going on with me, daddy, this is what's going on with me, mommy. And at no point, because they didn't feel comfortable enough with sharing this information with a teacher or school personnel, did they share it with them. So in many cases, that stakeholder, the parent, is the first one to receive the information. So they know when this child is sad, they know when this child is happy, they know when this child is hurting. And so if you really want to bridge the gap and help make things better and have children feel, students feel that they're part of a community that looks at them as being first and foremost as far as what's happening with them being the most important thing that's happening, you must include parents in the conversation. End of story. So what all this boils down to is this: at the end of the day, students must feel that they play a role in their safety, that they play a role in the dynamics that affects their everyday lives. So an effective school will always have a student committee, a student body, a student board. And this board is designed to have kids or students be engaged in how best to make sure that bullies don't have a place in their classrooms. So when it's all said and done, that students have a seat at the table of discussion, and they play a major role in what happens to students that their only intent is to make sure that they're uncomfortable and that they do mean things to their peers, and that they have a say-so in making sure there is concrete change. That's what a true stakeholder is, and students are stakeholders. So if in your school there aren't any stakeholders that are students, then you don't have an effective bully-free zone school. Policies are like referees. They determine what can be done and what can't be done, and the regularity of certain things that take place on a day-to-day basis. So when you have students that from time to time move out of bounds and display inappropriate behavior, is disrespectful to other students, that's when these policies have a real impact. And policies are also important because if every student is familiar with policies, they know how far that they can go with this, in some cases, outlandish behavior. So when you have those things in place and they're talked about on a constant basis, they're hung up on the walls, they spoke about in the classrooms, that the principals is having daily, if not monthly, assemblies speaking to policies, that if Jack or Jane or Muhammad or James, if they execute undesirable behaviors, this is what the district says, this is what the superintendent says, this is what the chancellor says. These are our policies of enforcing rules that should eradicate behaviors that make our students feel unsafe and uncomfortable. That's why policies are so key and essential to making some true changes in some schools, in all of our schools. So thank you for joining me and taking the time to watch this episode. I hope that this has been very informative, and I need you to go back to your schools and help create the change that is necessary to get our young people back to a place of balance and a place of safety. My name is JB the Mentor, and like I always say, love yourself, love your community, and be the change that you want to see. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, that bell for future notifications so that when new content is aired, you'll be the first one to receive it. And remember, we all can make the change. So let's start changing this world one step at a time.